Hello everyone, welcome back to Cubic F1. Now, first of all, I want to address not being able to record any videos in a year. It's been an extremely busy year, but I'm going to try and make content more frequently and try and make more content for you guys to enjoy. I want this video to get 8 likes. If it gets 8 likes, I'll do a next video, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. So today we want to talk about Daniel Riccardo and his return to Tauri, my opinion on it, and what I actually see and what I expect from him at the same time. Now, first of all, I want to say that I personally believe that AlphaTauri and Red Bull did a wrong move by, first of all, taking Nick De Vries out of it and putting Daniel Ricciardo in. I personally, in my personal opinion, I don't believe Nick De Vries had half the time, because I think that's how Red Bull are. They don't give any drivers time, and then what we see is drivers either go to a lower team, try to rebuild, like we've seen Alex Albon do, Pierre Gasly do. Like, to be fair, Gasly, that's what you expect with him now, because I think personally Gasly was a great driver, had a great talent, but I personally believe Red Bull does this frequently with drivers. Either they get promoted too quickly, or they give them they don't give them the amount of time that is required for them to achieve their potential, which is a problem that Red Bull have, and it is very annoying to see, because nearly every single year we've had this, well, except from the last decade or so, before 2018, 2019, before Daniel Ricciardo left Red Bull to go for Renault, everything was perfect. But then when Daniel Ricciardo left, Red Bull got into this certain situation where they had to replace Daniel Ricciardo, but they didn't have the right driver to replace him, because they didn't have someone inexperienced. So until they went for Checo Perez, which took a long time for them to actually do that, because first they went through the AlphaTauri drivers, that didn't work out, Alex Albon and Gasly, as I said, and that didn't work out. And now they're in this situation with the AlphaTauri team bringing in Daniel Ricciardo. But then the thing is that I don't see who they're going to get if they don't keep him for 2020-24. Because I don't see who they're going to get. There's not really that many drivers unless you go for a young, talented driver. But AlphaTauri clearly stated we want someone that's experienced to go alongside Yuki. But who are they going to get? I don't see anyone that's going to go into the AlphaTauri team, except from Daniel Ricciardo right now, and is experienced, has won a race or has done something like that, and has actually done well in Formula 1 before. Now, personally, when I think of someone that's going to come into the AlphaTauri team, I can only think of Daniel Ricciardo. That's the only name that comes to my head. And personally, people were talking also about Sergio Perez, how Daniel Ricciardo's move puts pressure on him. Let's be honest, AlphaTauri, Red Bull team, and the Red Bull team, they're two different teams. I can understand how it puts pressure, I can understand what people were saying, but at the same time, I feel Sergio Perez doesn't feel as pressured as if it was, if they were told Sergio Perez directly, I was like, okay, Sergio, you're going to lose your seat unless you start performing better. That's understandable, but Red Bull want to keep Sergio for as long as they can. He's a great second driver. He's got the experience. He's got everything you need for a second driver, let's be honest. And I personally believe that the right move, it is to bring Daniel in. But I don't understand why Nick De Vries is given such less time, and then you expect to put Daniel in and you expect him to do better. I understand that Yuki Tsunoda is getting really good results. I understand. But Yuki Tsunoda is a diamond in the rough. He still needs polishing, but he's a great talent. And I personally believe if AlphaTauri and Red Bull do well enough, I think Yuki could become, after Max Verstappen goes, one of the best drivers in F1. But that's if. That's a big if. Because I don't know what Yuki's going to be in 10 years' time. He could be better, he could be worse, he could be nothing. That's life. That's like the cycle of life, as they say in Lion King. But personally, I want to focus on Daniel Ricciardo. That's what I want to focus on today. we've talked a little bit about Red Bull and how ruthless they are, because I personally believe it's not right what they do. It's every single season, nearly every single season since 2019, since Daniel Riccardo left the team. So not 2019, 2018. Since Daniel Ricciardo left the team, Red Bull were in shambles for a second driver. They were doing really well with the first driver, but Max Verstappen nearly had a new teammate every single time he came into a new race. Not that bad, but it was nearly that bad, because he was literally having a new driver, like a new teammate every single season. Every single season. First he had Pierre Gasly. I think first of all the problem with Gasly was he didn't. How do I say this? It's not that he underachieved, but he compared himself to Max a lot. I think if you've ever watched Drive to Survive and all that series, which hopefully you guys have, you will see how much he compared his results to Max. Now, personally, if I was an F1 driver and I was comparing my results to a world champion, which wasn't at the time, but was going to be a world champion, and let's be honest, Max, you're not going to get close to Max's results. You're not even going to get maybe a tenth off, unless you're like a really experienced driver, have been there before and know exactly what to do. Which is in the case of Sergio Perez, which I understand. Sergio Perez is going to get better lap times. Not better, but close lap times to Max. And when you're a youngster, like Pierre Gasly and Alex Albon, and you come into that Red Bull team, and you expect to all of a sudden just do really well, I'm going to be honest with you, it's not going to happen. Because first of all, you're a youngster, you need time to progress. And I think the mistakes that Red Bull did with Gasly were, they were like, okay, what's it called? We're gonna take you to the Red Bull team. We expect you to be doing really well in it, even though you're a youngster. We expect you to do really amazingly and at least get close results to Max Verstappen. Now, if we go check the stats from that season, which I remember seeing, if you guys even remember the stats, because the stats they weren't perfect. I remember when I saw it, it was mad. Let me see if I can find them. I don't know if they're... I forgot to put stats at the end. But basically, I don't believe the stats were even close. They weren't really close. Like, let's go here. Yeah, see, this puts it a little bit clearly. 2019 season. Okay, if it even opens. There you go. You got it right here if it loads. Hopefully it loads for you guys to see. So basically this is Gasly's and Max Verstappen's season in an overview. So how much time Gasly had, and see if I had the images here. Where's the image? I literally just saw the image. Is the image not here anymore? Oh my days, bro. Okay, but yeah, I think if you see the stats and if you see the head-to-head, how they did. Like, okay, let's go head-to-head performance. Yeah, look at that. I mean, this is why you can't compare yourself to him. You really can't. Comparing yourself to Max Verstappen is the worst thing you can do. So last season were they at Red Bull together? I think it was what, 2018? I think when did Pierre Gasly? I think it was 2018 because that was when he joined Red Bull. Let me check because I don't want to get this wrong. Okay, racing. Yeah, I know he joined. Okay, 2019. So it was 2019. So I was right before. I'm getting these things mixed up, so I apologize for that. But 2019 season, okay, so we've got it right here. 2019 season. Max Verstappen got 278 points. Gasly, not even close with 95. You can't... Look, I'm going to say this once, and I'm going to make sure you guys understand. I think everyone understands the basic concept, and it's that comparing yourself to someone like Max Verstappen's caliber, or even Lewis Hamilton's caliber, is a very morale destroying thing that you can do, because it destroys your morale. First of all, I can imagine how Gasly felt being in the same car as Max but not being able to extract the same performance that Max was having, which I completely understand. But first of all, Max and Gasly are two totally different drivers. Like, Gasly has his own driving style and Max has his own driving style. So trying to extract the same performance that Max is doing is not going to work, personally, in my opinion, because you're not used to the car. It's your first season in that car, and that's exactly why he only got half the season. I mean, it was ridiculous when I saw it for the first time, because I was shocked. I was shocked when I saw Gasly go and get replaced with Albon, but then I wasn't really shocked, because the way Gasly was performing and what he was doing, you weren't ever going to last long at Red Bull. Getting P14 and P6s that he was getting every single race constantly, and not being able to at least get the car on the podium. All the team expected was a P4. The closest Gasly was getting was to a P6. Not even a P4, a P6. Now, I personally believe being Red Bull, being a teammate of Max Verstappen is one of the hardest things in the world to do. And I believe that there's only been one driver, maybe one or two drivers that have actually been able to do it well, which is Daniel Ricciardo, which is the obvious option, even though they did have some clashes at time before Daniel left for Renault, and which is now called Alpine. I believe Daniel was one of the best drivers to ever be Max Verstappen's teammate, because they were able to get along well as a team, but they were also able to work well as a team, and that's very important in an F1 team. You have to be able to work together, be able to maximize the best performance out of the car, be able to get the most points you can get. And I think Daniel Ricciardo and Max Verstappen did exactly that. And I think when Red Bull learned that Daniel Ricciardo is going to leave for Renault, I don't think Red Bull were very happy, because first of all, they probably knew, okay, now we're going to have to take a risk, get a younger driver in, see if they can perform close to Max Verstappen. And when they weren't performing close to Max Verstappen, they were there like, oh, what are we going to do now? Because we really don't really have an option now, because we're going to put a younger driver in. We don't know if he's going to do as well as Daniel Ricciardo did, and that's just that. Now, you do have Pierre Gasly and Alex Albon as well. Now, I have met Alex Albon before. I have had a conversation with him, and Alex Albon, he sounded as he had more control over the situation, but I think his results towards the end of the season, they weren't as good. I think he started, before he got the actual Red Bull seat, he had that little bit end of the season to get that Red Bull seat, and he performed exceptionally well. But then when the season actually started, he was struggling. And I think when Alex told me a bit about it, I was like, okay. We had a conversation about his races and what he felt he did right and what he felt he did wrong. And I think Alex himself, he said, I couldn't get close to Max. I couldn't get close to his performance. And he said he struggled. Now, first of all, that car was built for Max Verstappen. It wasn't constructed for Alex Albon, it was constructed for Max Verstappen. Now this season, the car is more towards each person's side. So you can see both drivers, they can extract the same amount of performance, but Max still has that cutting edge. Now, when I was talking with Albon, when he told me he wasn't able to perform, I was there thinking, why weren't you able to perform? And then he told me he found it very hard when he was driving the car to drive it to the amount that Max was driving. And personally, when I heard that, I was like, okay. First of all, the first thing I learned was, yeah, this car was built around Max. It wasn't, and it's not that I'm surprised, because I'm not surprised that it was built for Max. Let's be honest, Max is always going to be their number one driver until he retires, at least. And he has a contract until 2028. And at this point, before he had his contract in 2020, him and Max, I think when it came into the actual season, I think Albon only got like one podium. His results were definitely better. I believe he was a step up from Gasly, because he did tell me he was able to push the car efficiently at times. maybe not push it to 100% that he wanted it to, but he was able to push it efficiently at times, and he was able to get good results. But he only had one podium to prove that from that season. And I think personally, I think Albon, maybe he deserved more time in the Red Bull Junior team, which is AlphaTauri now, or Toro Rosso, as it would have been. I think it would have been AlphaTauri because it was 2020, but I personally believe most of these drivers, they needed more time to develop and become great drivers. You know, that I think that's how you do it. You become a good driver with having time to develop and going along. But it wasn't the same for Gasly. Gasly didn't have a great time. Albon, I think he had a little bit more time. He had more time than Gasly did. So he did have more time, and he wasn't able to extract the performance. So it was one of those situations where, it was one of those situations where he couldn't do much. Because I think at the end of the day, Albon knew his seat wasn't going to be safe. He didn't perform to what Red Bull wanted, and he knew his seat wasn't going to be safe. So it was one of those situations where you can't do much. So I think now we're going to compare Daniel Ricciardo and Max Verstappen. Now, if you compare these two, you're going to see the big difference between these two. We're going to go to the season where they were at the same team. What was it? 2018? 2018. Yeah. So, orange is Daniel, and Max Verstappen is the grey. So, we're going to look at a season which was 2017. 2017 was the season as well. If you look at 2017, this is Max, and that is Daniel. Look how close Max and Daniel are competing. To me, I believe that Daniel knew what he was doing. I will never understand Daniel's decision to leave Red Bull. I don't know what his decision was, why he wanted to do it. I understand he wanted the challenge, but if Horner really wanted, if Helmut Marko and Horner really wanted to keep him, they would have done everything to keep him. And I personally believe, at the end of the day, they believed in him, they liked him, but they weren't willing to just, keep hold of him. They weren't willing to just, hold on to him as much as they could until they had to let go. But they didn't really put up a fight for it, which is kind of the thing that confuses me. Because if he was getting these results against Max Verstappen, and he's been the only teammate over the past few seasons that we've actually seen getting close to Max, and he's not, and they didn't try to keep him, it kind of shocks me why he isn't in the Red Bull seat right now. But at the same time, I understand why they don't want to put him in the Red Bull seat, because first of all, they have Sergio Perez, which is a great second driver, by the way. I think he's at a great point in his career. He is getting older and older, but that is normal. F1 drivers are like fine wine. They age like fine wine. But I personally believe Sergio Perez will stay at least one more season at Red Bull. One more season. Probably more than that, but I expect at least one more season. I don't think Daniel is going to go straight into Red Bull next year. No. I personally believe there is a high chance that if Daniel performs exceptionally well, that's better than De Vries, he does get the Red Bull seat. If he performs better than De Vries, he has a higher chance of getting the Red Bull seat, because then it's all dependent on Sergio Perez. Like, if his results deteriorate and Daniel's results are always exceeding, Red Bull will have no choice left. They'll literally just have to swap them and see how it goes. Now, personally, in my opinion, I think it could go amazingly well. I personally believe, I've seen Daniel. We all know what Daniel can do. When he has a championship-winning car, even if he's not on his best day, he could still solidly get a front row. Maybe a win, maybe a P2, maybe a P3. But he will fight for that podium. And he knows what he has to do to get that podium. I think that's the very big difference between, someone like Gasly and Albon, who first of all don't have that amount of experience that Daniel has. There's just no way comparing them to, because they don't have the same experience. Maybe they will have it if they stay longer in F1 and they just understand. They will have that amount of experience, but right now they do not have that experience. Daniel has been here for way longer than him. Daniel has been here for what? Decade? Probably more. Probably a little bit shorter, I'm not sure. But I know he's been here for a long time. He knows what he's doing. And he's an exceptional talent. Which, when I heard he didn't want to race this season, I was very surprised. But I understood why. Sometimes as an F1 driver, you need time for yourself. Which is completely understandable. Like, I understood. But, yeah. I don't really understand why Red Bull didn't try to keep hold of him. I mean, they weren't like, oh, try to sign this new contract. I think they didn't really show they cared. I understand Daniel wants a new challenge, and that's always going to be his personal priority. But I believe Red Bull could have shown a little bit more passion, a little bit more care to keep in Daniel. And they didn't really show that cutting edge that would... Maybe that would have changed Daniel's mind. Who knows? Maybe it wouldn't. But I believe if Red Bull at least tried to show that little bit more of care, they would have kept Daniel, which is very possible. At the same time, he probably would have gone anyways. But at least if they tried, it's better than saying that you didn't try. So it's one of those things. So back onto the Daniel topic. Now, well, we were talking about Daniel, but we're going to be talking more about Daniel and De Vries. Now, I believe Daniel and De Vries, first of all, two very different drivers. Of course, they're two different drivers. One has mass amounts of experience, and another has literally just got into F1. I think he had one race last season, and he did really well. And I will say this, and I will say it again, as I said in my last video a year ago, which I will be frequently doing more videos now. But as I said before, for a driver, one race, let's be honest, I could be a Formula 1 driver, I could do really well and push myself to the limits in one race, and people are all over me, trying to sign me. And that's exactly what happened with Nick De Vries. And then Red Bull came. They wanted him to sign for AlphaTauri. He signs for AlphaTauri. First of all, I personally believe it's not De Vries' fault. First of all, he didn't have time. Second of all, he's in a very bad car. A car that's not even close to the Red Bull's performance, which is normal because they're not in the same... They have parts from the Red Bull team, but they don't have the same car structure, and they don't have the same way the car was built. It's very different. And the car, when I looked at the design of the car, I was like, what on God's earth is this? I was surprised. Because the car wasn't even close to... I wouldn't expect it to be exactly like Red Bull, but just a little bit close. I think when you look at the design, I mean, let's even search up the design right now, because it just... If you see the car, I mean, yes, the sides, they're the same, but why? The thing that doesn't make sense is why are they not able to extract the same amount of performance? The car has some things that are similar. I mean, if you compare them to, I think this little bit at the top, I don't know what that is. I don't know who on God's earth said to do that. But I think, personally, I don't know. Because Red Bull, I don't think they have this part at the top. Maybe they do, I'm not sure. Let me check. Because I have seen the Red Bull teams, or I can't spell racing nowadays. Amazing. Can't spell. See if I can find the car. Yeah. Okay, so they do have it, but yeah, you can compare it. I mean, you can compare the design. You can see the design is not exactly the same. I don't know what's wrong. Like here, it looks like this little bit. I don't know, I think it is the same, but this Red Bull has like a little wing back there. The design is it's like a replica kind of, so I was wrong. I admit that I was wrong. It is very close to each other. But then, what's going on? Because one driver can't even get close to the amount of performance that the other driver's getting. It doesn't make sense to me. So yeah, that was comparing Daniel and Riccardo, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys understand where I'm coming from. And I hope you guys have a great day. I'm sorry I haven't uploaded that in a very long time. I'm gonna try uploading more frequently. Thank you guys for everything and for watching this video. I'll be back hopefully very soon with another F1 video, and I hope you guys enjoyed me analyzing the F1 drivers that were driven at Red Bull, Daniel Ricciardo, and what we are going to expect from him. I wish Daniel Ricciardo the best as he drives for Tauri. I hope he does really well. I'm sad to see Nick de Vries go, but sometimes that is how it is. F1 is not a nice sport. It's harsh and it's not merciful. That's just how it is. So thank you guys for watching. 8 likes and I will do another F1 video very soon. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you all very soon, hopefully. Bye bye.